last night, as I'm sure you know, 21 Pilots released the final music video in the lore, City Walls. And part of that music video also contained the song Intentions as the end credits of the story, which I think was a very good choice. Just right off the bat, the first thing to note about this video is that it is the first time I can ever truly say a music video that I've watched was cinematic. Now, oftentimes we use that term to compliment a music video, to say something about how great it was. That music video, that video that they put out was cinema. And often what we mean there is it had a cinematic look, had a great quality in the video, was very well put together. But there's more to cinema and movies and things like that than just the look. It's also the message and the meaning it conveys. And 21 Pilots do have a good track record of conveying more in their music videos than most. But even so, this, I think, is the first music video from them that I've seen that I can truly say was cinematic in every sense of the word. Watching it and hearing that song and watching the end credits moved me in a way that only films really ever have. And that was incredible. And so, no matter what else you may think about the ending or how they chose to tell the last chapter of the story, I think we can all agree that this was a fantastic piece of art. Fantastic music video. Yeah, it was a little too CGI heavy for my taste, but we've talked that topic to death. I can't say that I am shocked by the ending. Obviously, this was an idea that had been circulating around since the Clancy tour, since those messages began to be decoded. If we defeat them, we will become them, and if we become them, we must do better. And then we got the letter from the Torchbearer pleading with Clancy to remember the raw fear that fueled him, remember who he is, where he came from. And then we have a letter from Clancy back to the Torchbearer, a letter which at the time I remember pulling up and talking through and saying, this is concerning. This sounds like he's going down a path he shouldn't be taking. And then as things went on, and we got more and more information, it seemed like, well, yes, it seems inevitable that Clancy is going to become a bishop, but perhaps he will be a new bishop, a new kind of bishop. And so it will be okay. That won't be a sad ending. That's how things are supposed to be. And the only way out is to go through and take down the system and replace it with something else. But the implications of the ending of this video are not that. The implications are much darker, which is that Clancy becomes Nico, and everything that follows from that. And that's not something that should just be taken lightly. I think the idea that Clancy becomes Nico, not a new kind of bishop, not a bishop who's toying with the idea of absolute power, who's corrupted by the idea of absolute power, but a bishop who is Nico, or at least someone very much like him, who's going to continue the process and religion, the system of vialism. But I was not shocked by the ending. I think many of us saw it coming, in a sense. Many of us, myself included, hoped that there would be a different ending to the story. I put forward an idea for a different ending to the story. But watching it, I wasn't surprised. I wasn't even mad. I'm not mad that this is how they chose to end the story. And I'll get more into that in a moment as to why I don't think it makes much sense to be for myself. But I am sad. I think this ending makes the entire story a tragic one. It makes Clancy's story one of tragedy. And again, that's something that I think we saw coming. That's something that we saw in that letter from Clancy, that concerning letter. Clancy is someone who is tempted by control and controlled by temptation. And as he outlines in City Walls, the plan always was for Clancy to unseat Nico. And the tragedy of that is that by enacting that plan and unseating Nico, he was going to come face to face with his greatest temptation, the temptation of control. And here we see him succumb to that and become a bishop. Now, another thing that I think is interesting and important to remember is the video didn't end there. It didn't end with Clancy becoming a bishop. It didn't end with the Torchbearer refusing to take the cloak in his own right, refusing to take what Clancy handed him, just like Clancy had refused to take what the Torchbearer handed to him, and turning away and leaving. There was another scene after that, which I think makes this tragedy end on a note of hope, because the time loop theory, as I see it, is real. Maybe not exactly how I outlined, maybe not exactly how others have outlined, but it is real. The Torchbearer exists outside that time loop. He exists outside that cycle. Now, the Banditos may not. Clancy doesn't. The Bishops don't even seem to, which is interesting. But the Torchbearer does. He's seen this time and again, and we saw this in the I Am Torchbearer video. And he knows that it's not over. This Clancy made his last attempt to break the cycle. But there's a new Clancy who's going to make a new attempt. And as this was the farthest they had ever breached into Dima, this was the farthest the plan had ever gotten, there is hope that in the future they will get even farther. Maybe not next time, maybe not the time after that, but sometime the Torchbearer's plan will work, and they will win. But it can't be now. Can't be yet. I think also, and this is something that took me a while to realize, I didn't think this as soon as we saw the ending, but an ending in which Clancy won and just defeated Nico and everything was happy-go-lucky, it would have felt too shallow. Now, I wouldn't have been critical of it. It would have made a lot of sense to end the story that way. But what they did here is actually more meaningful. And while it's sad, while it's tragic, it is more real. It's less cliched, and ultimately, I think I'm kind of happy that they ended it this way. I would have been less happy if they hadn't have had that scene with the Torchbearer and the unnamed Bandito, who I'm going to assume is Elliot. I think without that scene, it would have just been tragic and dark for the sake of it. But there is still hope. It isn't a story of despair, but it is a real story, or at least an allegory for a real story and a real thing. And because of that, it can't just be filled with pure happiness. There is going to be tragedy and sorrow in it. And I think in this video, at the ending, we really, or even throughout the video, we got an insight into the Torchbearer and how heartbroken he is and how amazing it is that even after seeing Clancy go through this time and again, he still believes in him. He still trusts in each new version of Clancy. Or at the very least, still wants him to make it out. He's still going to put all his effort and his life on the line to help him make it out. But we saw, more than we ever had, what the Torchbearer feels watching his friend go through this time and again. And there was some great acting in this. Both Tyler and Josh. Incredible performances, especially that ending, or the ending in the tower, not the actual ending, but the ending in the tower. When Clancy goes to hand the Torchbearer the Bishop's cloak, and you can see, just by looking at Clancy, that he's no longer himself. He's changed. Just the way he carries himself in his eyes. There's no words spoken there, and there doesn't need to be. You can tell exactly what's going on there, the communication there. So ultimately, my takeaway from all of this is that I'm not mad, I'm not disappointed, I'm not surprised. I am sad, it's a tragic story, but ultimately, I think I'm glad that they ended it this way.